Hey everybody, welcome back to Cryptic Woodworks. This is just a short segment about a little trick that I've always used around the wood shop to help me out here, especially when working on things like puzzle boxes and other items where I have very small tolerances to hit. Now this really helps some people. So, on one of my puzzle boxes that I'm getting ready to make multiple copies of, that's what these are going to turn into, I've been fitting these bottoms and tops into their openings. And what I often find is that when I cut one of these, I might be just 64th or even less over when I make this cut. And they can vary from box to box. If my glue ups weren't precisely 45 degrees, or if the saw didn't cut precisely where I wanted it to. Like I said, these are really small errors. So I've often heard people say, well, you can't fix that with a table saw. You have to use only hand tools when you're taking off things that small. Now, I have hand planes, I have chisels, I have card scrapers, I use them all. I use them whenever I find the need for it. But sometimes I do find that making quick cuts on the table saw is faster. People say, well, how can you make a cut this small on the table saw? How can I adjust a fence so that it's, less than a 64th of an inch closer? Well, that's where one of my secret shop weapons comes in handy. And hopefully you haven't gone and locked yours away in a puzzle box like I did. But sometimes I do this. So, if you let me set this, open, and fortunately I made this puzzle, so I remember the combination. And a little bit off. There we go. And now I can open it up and get some of my tricks out. So, this is what you need in your shop. I know, highfalutin. I'll show you how it works. So these cards are nice and thin. And that really comes in handy when you're doing small work. So, if you've got a pair of dial calipers on you, you can actually go ahead and check that thickness. And this card is reading 0.0115 inches. That's mighty small. Now you don't necessarily always need dial calipers. Come in handy if you really want to set it for a super close tolerance. But oftentimes just by look and feel you can get it right where you want. So how do you do this? Let's go over to the table saw and take a look. So here at the table saw, you've made your cut, and you find out that you're a tiny amount too big. So you need to take that down a little bit. What's the easiest way to do that? Well, just grab a couple of cards, whatever thickness you think you need. You say you can either, eyeball that, or you could do this by a little bit of trial and error. So you could take the cards you have, and on your stop, and you should be using a stop when making repeated cuts like this, simply slide the card in, and then you can go ahead and make a cut. Now, if you say, well, you know what, that's great, but I wish I could reset my fence position to be able to do this. Well, let's take a look at how that works too. So let's say you kind of figured out what your adjustment was. It was 3 cards, and if you want to repeat this on a couple of pieces, you don't want to constantly have to stick your cards in there, try to hold them in place every single time. So it's an easy way to move your fence stop over just that little tiny bit. Well, grab a piece of scrap and your cards. Push them in nice and tight. Grab a clamp. Clamp that down. Now, I pull my cards out. And on this fence, I have these little adjustment arms. And if I can undo him, there we go. I can loosen him. I'll push that up tight against my stop block. Retighten these little levers. And obviously if you just have, a regular block that you're clamping in place, it'd be the same thing. You would just unblock or unclamp this, shift your block over a little bit, tighten down or reclamp whatever you have in place. Then I can take this off, set them aside. And now when I go to run all my pieces, I've shifted my fence by an extremely small increment, but enough that I could repeatedly cut this. This is a great little trick. I hope it helps you out on the saw. Obviously I do have my guard up here so you can actually see down here, otherwise it'd be invisible. But of course you want to cut with that guard down as often as possible. So I hope that helps. Have a good day.